You have the eye for human weakness, but not the stomach.
What's this about?
Oh, just a feeling I have.
Ouch. When you get those feelings, insurance companies start to go bankrupt.
What kind of music do you usually have here?
Oh, we got both kinds. We got country and western.
Are you the police?
No, ma'am. We're musicians.
It's the Al Travis Show. I've got him. Senator Mark Koran, who comes on with us every couple of weeks, talk what's going on. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well.
How was your Christmas?
It was good. It was one of those, my 3 boys are older, and so you do the complicated calendar for which I don't manage. My wife does about who gets who, where, and when.
Yeah.
But it was a Christmas. All 3 boys were there. All the grandkids were here, and we got to spend time together. So spectacular.
And if I'm not mistaken, but this was like the first year without the big light show at your phone.
It
so
is.
no, how did that sit in your gut?
With all the snow and everything, we got over that decision when we made it, the 1st of November, and it was the right decision. We'll be back, we'll be back bigger and better.
All right, fantastic. So we'll be looking forward to that. Over the holiday, I didn't watch a lot of the regular media that I would watch because it was the holidays. I tried to stay out. Did you catch this ex-guy, Nick Shirley, and his... Yeah, I see you, sir. You're jumping around a little bit, but I think you're still there. I got him, Senator Mark Koran. Did you see this Nick Shirley guy? Were you able to see him?
I did see his video, yes.
And your thoughts on it, sir, from the point of view of... Yeah, if you could take your camera off, that generally helps, gives enough...
Yep.
All right. Because it is radio. There you go. I get good signal now.
Yeah.
So give me your thoughts on Nick Shirley and the 43-minute video you saw.
Yeah, I think the Nick Shirley video really showed that there's no new discoveries, right? This is a combination of the healthcare providers and the daycare providers, and he did a simple man on the street interview.
We're having some problem with. Go ahead. There, you're back. Go ahead.
Sounded like he had the information from DHS about who the providers were, and it was great to highlight it. The emboldenedness of the daycare providers with them, 2017, this exact same scenario has been occurring since that I'm aware, and likely before, that he still went there and nobody's there. These are large daycare facilities, and not a single form of life can be found as far as children. That's pretty emboldened. What are they doing? They're doing the same thing. These are shadows of what is supposed to be a legitimate business.
Let me ask you this, sir. What does it take to stop getting a payment? I don't think there's anything new here. You and I have talked about this fraud going on since you've been coming on the program. The thought that there were 95 violations on this one place from 2019 to 2023, and then at some point there are 12, 16 people there. They're up to 100 now, 2 years later, and they're getting $1.9 million. Once you've had 95 violations, do we start visiting you on a weekly? How do you get 95 violations and you're going from 16 to 100 kids?
Yeah, Alan, you look at this piece of it, they appear to have been put together in this area, another loophole, right? Was it a system designed to fail? So all other daycares require an annual unannounced visit.
Yep.
Daycare centers as well, unless they receive CCAP dollars, Al. And if they receive CCAP dollars, they have the option to go unannounced or announced. And so that's part of the piece that I've been asking is, how could they possibly inspect these randomly, right, and unannounced, when no one else can seem to show any evidence of life unless they're working with them? And this is the Department of Human Services doing those inspections. Yeah. And if they have those types of violations, and you'll find in adult daycare, I've seen this, it'll be for a decade. Wow. No other businesses would be allowed to do this. In this case, the gross violations, they should be on an every month basis, showing up and making sure that everything, it hasn't been fixed from years past and terminated.
So let me ask you this, because I was just talking this in the last half hour. When we decide we're going to do a program, is there ever a needs analysis I want to think it was the beds for housing, whatever. There were like there were 3,000 more beds than we needed. Let's go autism as an example. When we decided to do autism, did we call a bunch of doctors and find out the percentage of kids with autism, which would mean there are X number of kids, X number of them are low income, and so if it costs $500 a lesson, this is what it'll cost us? Is there ever this thing where we just say, once it gets to that number, then anything above it, we stop until we find out why? Maybe we're wrong on the number of kids, maybe we're wrong on how much it costs. Do we ever do that?
Al, in the assessment of need, and that's how these programs start, right? They're almost all based on some defined social ill. Yeah. And they are actually created by the Department of Human Services in Minnesota. The program is then formulated and documented, right? What the need is, but to justify that need, I don't know that there's any great rocket science behind it. We haven't been provided that. But in every aspect of the program, they've created it. So when they come back and say, "Well, we had no idea it went from $800,000 to $100,000 to $100 million with no known real need," it's no different than the Feeding Our Future. The children they were targeting were already been fed at least twice on the government dime, right? The true in need, and they dump money on top of it to feed their non-profiteer market. So, well,
and if I'm not mistaken, the governor said we're only shut down for 3 weeks for schools, right? I mean, so every meal after that would have been a little tough. But it's ideas like this. Let's go with the child daycare thing. I have no idea this number, but I presume someone in the Department of Human Services does. We know the number of kids under the age of 5, whatever, 6, whatever they go to kindergarten. I don't remember anymore. But whatever that number is, right? There's that set number of children in the world. Then you got to say, the number that are, if you will, in poverty or need help finding this would be X. So when we start this out, because I'm finding this hard to believe we're spending $19,000 a kid as supplemental to pay for this stuff. But let's say that's the going number. You multiply the two together. When this program gets to this number, something's up. Did we ever set a top line on this stuff?
Yeah, well, clearly they're not validating those that are attending now. And they've proven it. In 2018, that was part of the big deal. And so we made some statutory changes. And again, that doesn't drive agency behavior. The governor does that. When they showed up and all the same audits and all the same types of issues come about, one of the major pieces was the daily attendance. They didn't have them available. But yet at that time, they were given 60 days to produce it. And not just provide the copy, but I think you know what I mean. They produced it, they continued to make it up, and didn't validate any of it. Now, an in-home daycare like my wife runs, my wife is hounded if she doesn't input her daily lunches or her daily meals every day. And if it's a week, they're on top of it. So there's no reason this can't be done. And this is foundational. And the one thing that's missing in all of these investigations, which was there 2018, is who are these families supposedly in need? Who are the families? What qualifications do they have to even need these?
Well, yeah, because I'm not sure what the number is somewhere in that community, like 75% on welfare. Well, if you're already on welfare, correct, you're not working. So why would we be paying for your kids to be in daycare?
Correct.
There's got to be a number. Again, it's a math problem for me, nothing else.
It's a simple math problem.
It is. And then once you go above that, then we realize there's a problem. And it could be we misjudged the number. Here's the other thing I want to talk to you about. We're going to run. I'll hit you up and then you can tell me on the other side. Okay. The idea that, and again, back with the autism, I find it hard to believe that we set up a program where there's so much slush money, I'm doing the fingers thing, slush money in it, that a person who wants to open an autism care center has enough money to give kickbacks and yet still make a living. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you got to be poor if you're in the autism care field, but should there be enough money that you can make kickbacks and then still run your business? We'll talk about that with Senator Mark Koran right after this.
You need a friend at the Capitol who knows how to get things done.
And you're in luck because that's exactly who we are, your friends at the Capitol, and we deliver results.
At Momentum Advocacy, we bring decades of experience in lobbying, public affairs, and crisis communications.
From local nonprofits to national corporations, we help you move policy, manage your media, and make your voice heard.
We're not just seasoned pros, we're essential partners.
Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol. Learn more at momentum-advocacy.com.
Think about it. Now that school's back in session, how are Minnesota students doing? Not very well. Minnesota ACT scores fell again last year and are the lowest they've been in 10 years. In fact, fewer than half of Minnesota students can either read or do math at grade level. Think about it. We used to brag about our schools. Now we're losing to states like Mississippi. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
I want to talk to you about saving a veteran's life this holiday season by giving to the Bravo Zulu House. This year, more than 6,000 veterans have taken their lives, leaving their families devastated this Christmas. Veteran suicide can be stopped, but we must fund solutions like the Bravo Zulu House right here in Minnesota, the only all-military sober home helping veterans with PTSD. Please save a veteran's life by donating today at bravozuluhouse.org.
Easily offended? The Al Travis Show is not for you. The Al Travis Show. All sides are welcome.
I've got him, Senator Mark Koran, on the program with his Senator. I don't know if that question made sense to you. Do we really set up programs where there's enough extra money to bribe, kickback parents to say their kids have autism when they really don't, or even if they do, to bring you to my place and not the other one? Is there really that much extra cushion in there that people can do that and still make a living? Because that makes me unhappy.
Yeah, but Al, I think when your first premise is that it's a legitimate business with legitimate costs providing legitimate service.
That's a good point.
So they don't really have. So when you have no cost basis, right, from a perspective of besides a shell of a mailing address somewhere, which you likely got at a discount.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think I think there's plenty of room when you look at all these Medicaid services and on the autism side. Remember, they were billing for some non-existent autism service by some unqualified person that there's no need and there's no verification of what that service would be at all.
Yeah. No criteria.
and then you have transportation. So you're paying for transportation, the bill and a transportation cost. And in I think a variety of the cases, they also had translation services. And as far as I can tell, this is still, in this particular case, it was a Somali autism provider, a Somali patient, and a Somali transportation provider with translation services, which all speak the same language. And so that's when you look at that, Al, when you look at those transactions and the number of transactions that they're allowed to bill for, with basically, and I read the most recent response from DHS, we just need to trust our providers. We don't really have any mechanism to go out and verify what they're actually doing or billing for. So there's plenty of fluff around there, Al. When you look at these medical services, it's a lot.
Did I also get this right? I had a representative on saying that in Minnesota there's no law against kickbacks, that a parent can do said shopping of a person, whether they have autism or not. And there's really no law against that. There's a federal law, but not a state law that says you can't do that.
It likely could have no corresponding state, but it certainly is violating a federal law. And thus, thank God, those are the only ones being prosecuted today. And so they know it's an illegal transaction, certainly unscrupulous at the least, because the foundation of that original transaction is it's fraudulent.
Yeah.
So
and how many people do you think? How far down will they go? The U.S. government will come do some. The big $15 million guys, the $3 million guys that we haven't seen anything come out of the Minnesota AG's office. Will we go for the parent that busted a federal law and did this or that, or these companies? Will we go for the guys who only tried to screw us out of $15,000 or $20,000?
Yeah, that to me is the biggest question. Are they eligible for the services? And if they're complicit, taking kickbacks, in any way have knowledge, and in this case, the vast majority have knowledge, and the rest are made up, right?
Yeah.
From a client transaction perspective. And so my fear is especially with no assistance from the state level executive body, that we won't get to the people who are stealing willfully and complicitly from the recipient side. Do you think this is, they're only stealing from one program? Anybody caught in that scenario, they should be kicked off or made ineligible for benefits, period. And they should never be able to open another billable service, for any of these services. But the only thing I'm confident is, thank God Donald Trump won the presidency. Okay. We wouldn't have a federal FBI here, and probably 3 to 4 federal agencies putting as many resources as possible. In any state, we probably are it. So thank God they're here prosecuting, but it can be tough for them to just get to the businesses and the tentacles of businesses that they're finding today. So
let's go with the change in possible governor. Do you think there's a shot at that? There's some Republicans that have put out a call for him to resign. I don't think that's going to happen, but they put out the call for that. Do you be careful what you wish for? If there's ever a person who's got a tough run to get the third term, this would be this guy, right? Governor Walz. Do the Republicans really want him to step down and have them put somebody else in, a Dean Phillips, Angie Craig, in which case, it's going to be a much tougher fight? Is that something, is it possible that this is the Republicans' best chance ever of getting a Republican governor?
I think it's a great chance, and probably one of our best. I have the same suspicion of why the sudden interest in all national media. They don't care about our voters, right? Yeah. And was it to pressure or Joe Biden, Tim Walz?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right? It logically says he's the toughest one, or he's the most easily beatable. But that's not an easy task in Minnesota with our media. And so, but if we can't go out and beat anybody at the Democrat Party,
then what?
And that's what we have to build for. And by the way, they're all complicit. This is the model of the agencies and the policies they promoted and protected to enable these things. They're extraordinarily incompetent and complicit all at the same time. And that won't change with the.
But it's who. I find this remarkable, and no one talks about Governor Flanagan. She's running for U.S. Senate here in Minnesota off her great record. but for whatever reason, her name doesn't even get brought up in all this fraud stuff. Is it Wall sits in the meeting, the committee chairs sit in the meeting, commissioners, and then the guys underneath, and Lieutenant Governor is off doing what? Can she get by unscathed with even her name being brought up in all this? I don't know what the Lieutenant Governor is doing.
Yeah, I think the media has done a pretty good job at protecting both of them and leaving her completely out of the conversation. You're the second in command, right?
Yep.
So they're likely to assume reins if something happened. And to say that you're not knowledgeable about the basic elements would be a dereliction of your duties as well. They're all willfully complicit and completely incompetent.
Interesting to see what happens coming up next year during the election. Sir, I appreciate you very much coming on the program. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, have a great day. Thanks, Al.
Senator Mark Koran on the Al Travis Show.